All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to the webinar here, Crowdfunding, How to Efficiently Develop Net New Relationships That Earn Revenue Today. I'm going to be your host today. My name is Sean Connors, CEO and founder with eTeam Sponsor. I'd like to talk to you a little bit today about how our company, we've empowered over 3,000 academic institutions to raise over $30 million using crowdfunding. However, today isn't about eTeam Sponsor, it's about your organization and how it can build net new relationships quickly, efficiently, and sustainably using crowdfunding. Today we're going to go over the history of crowdfunding, its potential when used effectively, the benefits of student athletes, students on the campus, and donors, best practices, the potential pitfalls, and finally the logistics needed to be successful. We have everyone on mute today to make sure we don't have any distractions. However, we will be collecting any questions along the way via the chat feature, and we will answer them at the end of the session. We have a lot of useful information to get to, so let's go ahead and get started. First, let's jump into the definition of crowdfunding. Crowdfunding defined as the practice of funding a project or venture by raising many small amounts of money from a large number of people, typically via the internet. Although the concept can also be executed through letter writing, benefit events, and other methods, it is now often performed typically via the internet. This modern type of crowdfunding model is generally based on three types of actors. The project initiator, who proposes the idea and or the project to be funded, individuals or groups who support the idea, and a moderating organization, or let's call it the platform, that brings the parties together to launch the idea. Understanding the definition then helps us really get into the history of this. Crowdfunding has long had a history of enabling a community to empower those who are deserving or are seeking to fund a cause. The first example of crowdfunding technically was established back in the 1700s when Jonathan Swift created a program that allowed neighbors to vouch for each other so that they could obtain credit otherwise not available to the working class in Ireland. This continued for a century and empowered communities really all over the world. Fast forward to the 1970s, after the advent of the zip code direct mail letter writing, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with, was designed to acquire new donors or members and to inform, cultivate, resolicit, and really upgrade the level of their contributions. In 1997, modern crowdfunding was born when a British rock band funded a U.S. tour by reaching out to their fan base via letters. They leveraged their existing relationships to create new opportunities and fund that tour. In 2009, technology really began to allow crowdfunding to gain a 74% compounded annual growth rate. It was an incredibly important funding option because other funds, such as small business association loans, had become significantly less available, and we saw crowdfunding revenue triple from $530 million to over $1.5 billion in 2011. And in 2011, the president had signed a Jumpstart Our Business Startups, which is the Jobs Act, into law, also known as the crowdfunding bill. The Jobs Act allowed room for the development of a variety of crowdfunding tools and methodologies to be performed. So as you can see, this model has delivered meaningful results in the past, and recent advancement in technology have made it more efficient to do than ever before. So the boom, let's talk about that. Really the total global crowdfunding industry. This increase in available technologies, along with new laws, platforms, and tools, resulted in an incredible boom in crowdfunding. Between 2012 and 2016, crowdfunding grew from a $3 billion industry to a more than $34 billion industry. Everyday communications like text messaging, social media, and email have turned into powerful ways to not only get support from the community, but to build your community. Organizations like educational institutions are currently using crowdfunding to create new audiences, test ideas, gather useful feedback to expand their reach further than ever before. This is an incredibly powerful tool for academic institutions because studies have shown that on average, 62% of donors participating in a crowdfunded fundraising campaign are net new donors, and 28% of them are donors that will give multiple All right. So getting into really the options, what's out there? What is out there for people to use? Text messaging, social media, and email really have become the three ways that most crowdfunding platforms or crowdfunding methodologies, that's the mediums in which they are leveraging. So let's get into really how do you approach these options and what can you use? So the options, do it yourself. Three primary ways to crowdfunding. The first option is doing it with the do-it-yourself solution. This requires simply signing up for one of the many web services that are available, I'm sure that you've seen. Create a campaign. The web service allows you to keep a larger portion of the proceeds than when you typically use like a partner. However, you're on your own, and when it comes to building it, marketing it, tracking it, leveraging your campaign again, you're on your own. Partners, typically the second option is there's several companies that have built solutions for academic institutions to raise money using crowdfunding. Obviously, you'll pay a fee. However, a partner can provide you with best practices, reduce the amount of effort you have to expend, and give you the support you need to track and leverage your campaign's data. Finally, we've seen institutions build their own solutions. This third option allows you to keep every dollar you raise. However, the expense required upfront to build, maintain, and upgrade the solution can be significant. In addition, you're required to keep up with the pace of technology and modern forms of fundraising. We've seen over the course of years all three of these types of approaches to crowdfunding be effective, yet still have their challenges or pitfalls as well. Getting into really the successes. What have we seen over the course of the last 4 or 5 years in terms of collegiate success? If you're not currently engaged in doing some sort of campus-wide effort or leveraging crowdfunding, you're definitely going to want to get on board soon, because we've seen a lot of success at the college level. What does this approach? All right, there we go. I got muted there for a second. What does this approach look like in an academic institution? When I think of how a college can succeed using this model, I think of a friend of ours out here in California, driven athletic director, dean of athletics, who had a strong desire to create a team within his institution capable of providing better resources for his student athletes. He knew that developing net new relationships for the institution was essential in order to give them the best opportunities to all of his teams and club programs. However, he had to accept the reality of he receives up to 300 emails a day. He's got endless meetings and day-to-day fires across his program that he was responsible for putting out. His daily reality doesn't really give him the time to think of additional ways to raise money for the things his school needs and his athletes deserve. It certainly doesn't give him the time needed to build the new relationships that result in real impact to his programs. So on the recommendation of another athletic director, he decided to try crowdfunding. And through that, he was able to leverage the competitive spirit and existing relationships of his student athletes and who they knew. This made it incredibly easy to build a network of supporters that the institution didn't already know and put money into the program that they didn't expect. The overhead was much lower than some of the other fundraising activities. This allowed them to recover their investment in just one day and double the revenue generated by previous campaigns from the previous years. So an incredible return on investment. It also helped to relieve some of the donor fatigue that's caused by their usual fundraising channels and empowered those in the institution tasked with larger fundraising efforts by creating new friends of the university and allowing them to focus on the areas where they felt that they could best develop relationships. Much like historical examples that we covered previously, this athletic director was able to improve his organization by facilitating a community effort and building opportunities that would not otherwise be available had he not leveraged crowdfunding. So let's get into the benefits of crowdfunding. Looking at having student athletes and donors be a part of a new community and building net new relationships within your institution. The benefits, we ask a lot of our student athletes and donors, no doubt. It's important to remember their needs and create opportunities that ask less of them while still producing results. Time is limited. When using crowdfunding appropriately, student athletes are asked to contribute far less time than is necessary for many other fundraising activities. This is important because, as we all know, they need to focus on their academics and training and not fundraising. One story here real quick is we had another athletic director who was actually an associate AD and representing development for an institution out here in California. They actually compared their crowdfunding efforts with their student athletes versus letter writing and phone-a-thon efforts from their student athletes, looking at a year-over-year comparison. And they netted more with the crowdfunding effort. They spent less time with their crowdfunding efforts and their student athletes and got a greater return through the crowdfunding than they did previously with letter writing and the phone-a-thon efforts. So we understand the time is a big component of that. Donors, they need value. And what we found, that crowdfunding ties their donation to an individual that they have a personal relationship with and have a vested interest in seeing succeed. Affinity, we know, is typically going to outpace any type of advancement-led or development-led efforts in a general ask to the larger institution, capital projects. When it's tied to an individual, the donors provide or see a sense of value there. And then lastly, empowering everyone. Unexpected dollars mean that you can direct funds to teams and initiatives that otherwise would not get them. So we want to create opportunities that otherwise weren't going to exist. Getting into best practices. So what are some of the things that you should think about before initiating a crowdfunding campaign? Number one, make sure that you have the right mix of delivery and giving options. We like to use the rule of threes, 3 ways to give and 3 ways to deliver. You should personalize all communication. Personalization, we feel, is the key to crowdfunding success. Emails should read, "Hello, John," not "Dear family member." You should balance ask communications and non-ask communications. So giving people, again, give donors a sense of value with, one, they can support a student athlete, but 2, they also get to learn what is the student athlete involved in, positive activities, travel, all of the things that the positive activities are part of that program. Keep them abreast of what those activities are. You should also demonstrate the value to donors in a tangible and non-tangible ways. For an example, a tax-deductible receipt is something that is extremely tangible. They can use that at the end of the year for tax purposes. While information about the success of the campaign is less tangible, but often just as valuable to the donor. Looking at the pitfalls, these are the things you want to consider before selecting a crowdfunding tool. As much as following those 4 best practices can increase the effectiveness of your fundraising efforts, these 3 pitfalls can lead to bad experiences and reduce your ability to receive long-term benefit. Number 1, no transparency. Lack of transparency can cause problems with other fundraisers in your organization and reduce your ability to create long-term relationships with your donors. Make sure when you start crowdfunding tool that you're collecting the individual donors' information. That data is so empowering to your advancement or development office. The names, address, phone, email, donation amount. Again, we've worked with athletic departments and advancement offices that have said the value of bringing in that type of donor information and adding net new relationships to their database is extremely valuable to them. So make sure that you have a transparent platform that gives you ownership of the data. Number 2, make sure you've got support. Make sure you develop or obtain a support network. There's a lot of technology and tracking necessary in fundraising efforts today. Your advancement and development offices know that. As we all know, technology can give us the transparency we need and the efficiency we desire, but without support, one small issue, you can take that all away and add one more fire to deal with, which we know, it's not worth your time. Lastly, it becomes too technical. Make sure your plan is easy for you and your organization to set up and manage the campaign. Can't tell you how many organizations I meet with that say they can't continue to crowdfund because in order to create a personalized campaign that their donors actually are going to respond to, they have to spend the time that they don't necessarily have. This shouldn't be the case. Make sure it's an easy, efficient, and effective tool that's not too complicated. Logistically, how does this work? Determining how you'll coordinate the logistics above is really important. What forms of payment will you take? Giving donors options can increase their ability to give. If you only give people the option to give online, well, if they decide that they would like to write a check, maybe they have corporate matching. If they want to talk to somebody over the phone, giving donors options is going to increase the amount, amount of money that you can obviously raise. How are you going to process and track those payments? Who needs this information, and how often do they need access? Logistically, that's really important. Again, for those of you that deal with your advancement or development office or your foundation, obviously this is a conversation I'm sure you've had in the past. Very important. What if a refund's necessary? What are the rules around that? Refund handling, very important. That's something that, again, you want to make sure logistically you have that figured out before you start a campaign. Tax receipts are a great way to show benefit for your donors, and the tax deduction can even increase the donor's ability to give. So make sure you know the tax law and how to help your donors. You're also going to be collecting a lot of personal data. So how will you protect your institution and your donors when it comes to security? Okay, make sure that you own the data and that will not be used by others. And then lastly, think about the needs of your entire team. Okay, so any athletic program, club sport program, any campus-led fundraising effort. Think about the student, think about the donors, think about the administration, friends of the program, etc. The success of your campaign can be determined by the team you establish well before you start. All right. Great. So I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't mention eTeam Sponsors products. We have a great demo that you can take a look at if you're interested. And we have an exceptional team of fundraisers who love to help build better experiences for student athletes, students on a campus, athletic staff, administration, because that's who we are. That's where we came from. Like I said at the beginning of the webinar, this is the first of a series of educational topics we're going to cover. We hope you got benefit from our first installment, and keep your eyes out for our next topic. We'll be doing these on a consistent basis moving forward. We want to share what we've learned. If you have any questions or suggestions for topics we should cover, please type them in the chat window, and we'll do our best to address your comments quickly for either questions answered now or future topics. So at this point, I'll go ahead and open that up to anybody that's on the call. All right, so let's take a look here, and all right. First question that we have would be, what does it take to get started to launch a campaign? Well, we have a process here at eTeam Sponsor. It's about an 8 to 10 minute process to learn a little bit more about the dynamics of the platform and how it works. We have one platform, two products. We recommend you can go to our site, and you can go to the link down there at the bottom, eteamsponsor.com/demo, and then you can walk through with one of our groups. We have regional representatives across the country, so go ahead and you can fill out that information, email, phone number, and we'll have one of our regional representatives follow up with you to walk you through in more detail how our platform works. All right, got another question here. Do you guys see? Does eTeam Sponsor have SSL security and encryption? Yes. Okay. Yeah. So from a security standpoint, we recommend that any platform that you use, we recommend that it has the latest SSL security and certificates available. When it comes to PCI compliance, that's something too that we hold in high regards. When it comes to PCI compliance, any platform that you use will have the highest level of security. Banking institutions like Bank of America, Visa, the federal government all have the highest SSL 256-bit encryption and are PCI compliant. We highly recommend that any platform that you're looking at meets those technical requirements. And okay, last question I think that we have here. Does crowdfunding typically include letter writing as well as online? Well, as we've said at the beginning of the webinar, letter writing is definitely where crowdfunding had started. We do see schools still incorporating letter writing into their fundraising efforts. Typically nowadays, crowdfunding, again, defined is typically done via the internet or online mediums. We've seen that expand to mobile text message and social media. Crowdfunding is leveraging at this point the more common mediums in which people are communicating. So I would say we are seeing less and less letter writing. They're replacing, I think, the cost of printing, postage, and also the administrative tasks that come along with opening mail, data entry, those types of things. And they're replacing those inefficiencies with really the online tools and platforms that are out there now that allow all of that to be automated. So we are seeing that less and less. There are still some schools that use it, but we are definitely seeing crowdfunding really leverage the email, online, text message, mobile, and social media mediums when it comes to crowdfunding. Okay, great. All right, well, it looks like I think those are the 3 questions that we had. Are there any other questions that can be asked or answered at this time? Great. All right. Well, thank you all for joining. We appreciate you hopping on here with us today. Again, like I said, look forward to sending out some more information, our next installment for our next topic that we'll be covering here at eTeam Sponsor. Again, my name's Sean Connors, founder and CEO with eTeam Sponsor, and we'll look forward to chatting with you guys here in the future. Have a great day.